The stars twinkled silently as the USS Horizon drifted through the darkness of space. Commander Jack Phillips stood on the bridge, his eyes fixed on the vast emptiness ahead. Earth had received the signal 3 months ago, clear, purposeful, and definitely not human. After decades of searching, humanity had finally made contact with an alien civilization. "Commander, we're approaching the meeting coordinates," said Lieutenant Eric Jones, his fingers moving swiftly across the control panel. Jack nodded. "All systems check?" "Green across the board, sir. The Vorax vessel should be visible any moment. Now." Dr. Lisa Wright joined Jack at the viewport, her scientific curiosity barely contained. As the chief xenobiologist on this mission, she had spent sleepless nights preparing for this meeting. "Nervous?" Jack asked, noting her rapid breathing. "Excited," Lisa corrected. "We're about to meet beings from another world. Everything we know about biology, evolution, society, it might all change today." The ship's AI announced, "Unknown vessel, detected at 200,000 kilometers and closing." The bridge fell silent as a massive ship came into view. It was unlike anything humans had built. Smooth, almost organic in design, with no visible engines yet moving with incredible precision. The Vorax ship was at least 3 times the size of the Horizon. "Open communications," Jack ordered, straightening his uniform. The main screen flickered to life, revealing the first clear image of the Vorax. They had smooth gray-blue skin that seemed to shimmer under their ship's lights. Their faces featured 4 eyes, 2 large primary ones and 2 smaller ones above them. Instead of a nose, they had gill-like slits, and their mouths were wide, with thin lips. "I am Commander Jack Phillips of Earth. We welcome you in peace and friendship," Jack said, using the universal greeting protocol developed for first contact. The Vorax responded in perfect English. "I am High Commander Zexerol of the Vorax Dominion. We have studied your transmissions and learned your languages." The alien's voice had an unusual echo, as if multiple voices spoke at once. The next hours were filled with careful diplomacy. Jack led the official greeting party to a meeting room, where both species exchanged information about their worlds. The humans brought gifts, art, music recordings, samples of non-critical technology, and offers of trade. Lisa watched carefully as the Vorax examined the gifts. She noticed something odd, a slight curling of their mouth parts when the human delegation spoke of peace and cooperation. It happened again when Jack mentioned how Earth had united to reach the stars. Later, back in her quarters, Lisa reviewed the recordings. "Computer, zoom in on the Vorax facial features at timestamp 1432. The image enlarged, showing the subtle expression she had noticed. "Run comparison with known human expressions," she requested. The computer processed for several seconds. "Closest match, human expression of contempt, 78% confidence." Lisa frowned. Something wasn't right. Meanwhile, Jack was giving the Vorax delegates a tour of the ship. "And this is our hydroponics bay," he explained, showing the vast garden that provided fresh food for the crew. The Vorax ambassador, Krivna, tilted his head. "You grow plants on your warships?" "The Horizon is primarily an exploration vessel," Jack clarified. "We believe in being prepared for extended missions of discovery." "Interesting," Krivna replied. "Your people put considerable resources into comfort rather than weapons." That night, Lisa couldn't sleep. She accessed the communications array, programming it to scan for Vorax transmissions. It was technically against protocol, but her gut feeling wouldn't let her rest. At 3:24 ship time, the computer alerted her. "Encrypted transmission detected between Vorax vessel and distant location. Can you break the encryption?" Lisa asked. "Negative. However, partial translation of non-encrypted carrier signal is possible." "Do it," she ordered. The computer displayed the partial translation. "Weakness confirmed. Proceed as planned. Their compassion makes them vulnerable." Lisa immediately called Jack. "Commander, I think we have a problem." Before Jack could respond, the ship rocked violently. The emergency lights flashed red as the AI announced, "Alert! Multiple impacts detected. Shield failure imminent." Jack rushed to the bridge, with Lisa close behind. The main screen showed the Vorax ship firing energy weapons at the horizon. "Return fire," Jack ordered. "Weapons aren't responding, sir." Lieutenant Jones shouted over the alarms. Another blast hit the ship, sending crew members flying across the bridge. Jack helped a fallen officer to her feet. "Get me communications," he demanded. The screen flickered, showing High Commander Zexral. "You are confused, human? Did you think your weakness would go unnoticed? Your species extends mercy even to your enemies. You value life above victory. Such traits mark you as prey in this galaxy." Jack's face hardened. "We offered you friendship. And we recognized it as the gesture of a species unfit to survive among the stars," Zexral replied. "Your colonies at Europa, Ganymede, and Mars base have already been attacked. Consider this an education in cosmic reality." The communication cut off. Jack turned to his crew. "Emergency protocols. All power to engines and life support. We need to warn Earth." As the Horizon prepared to flee, the Vorax ship launched another attack. A direct hit to the engine section sent the human vessel spinning. "Engine core damaged," the AI reported. "Containment failing." "Evacuate engine section and seal it off," Jack ordered. "Prepare escape pods for launch." Lisa worked frantically at a science station. "Commander, I've been analyzing their attack pattern. They have a blind spot at their aft section. If we can maneuver behind them, do it," Jack said to the pilot. "And prepare our last functional missile. They think we're beaten. Let's surprise them." The damaged Horizon groaned as it pushed its remaining engines to the limit, maneuvering in an arc that the larger Vorax ship couldn't match. When they reached position, Jack gave the order. "Fire." The missile struck the Vorax ship's propulsion system. It wasn't enough to destroy the alien vessel, but it bought them time. "All personnel to escape pods," Jack announced. "Priority 1 is reaching Earth with this intelligence." As Lisa boarded her escape pod with critical data about the Vorax, she caught Jack's eye. He nodded grimly. "They've made a terrible mistake," he said. "They saw our mercy as weakness, but they haven't seen what humans do when provoked." The escape pods launched just as the Horizon's damaged engine core reached critical levels. The explosion temporarily blinded the Vorax sensors, allowing the humans to escape. As Lisa's pod accelerated toward the safety of deep space, her communication system picked up a final broadcast from the Vorax to Earth. "Your mercy makes you prey." She clutched the data drive containing everything they had learned about the Vorax. They had misunderstood humanity profoundly. Humans valued peace and compassion not from weakness but from strength and wisdom. And now humanity would show them the other side of their nature. The side that had survived on a predator-filled planet for millennia. The side that never forgot an enemy. The side that, when pushed too far, showed no mercy at all. 6 months had passed since the Vorax attack. The escape pods from the USS Horizon had made it back to Earth, bringing with them the grim news of alien hostility. Humanity faced its greatest challenge, but it was not unprepared. Admiral Susan Miller stood in the war room of the newly established Terran Defense Command, looking at the holographic display of the solar system. Red markers showed the locations of Vorax attacks. 3 human colonies had been completely destroyed, thousands of lives lost. "They believe we are weak," Susan said to the gathered military leaders. "That will be their downfall." The door opened, and Dr. Lisa Wright entered. She looked different, now, thinner, more serious, her eyes carrying the weight of what she had witnessed on the horizon. "Doctor, thank you for coming," Susan said. "Your insights on the Vorax have been invaluable." Lisa nodded. "The psychological profile is complete. The Vorax evolved as apex predators. They never developed the concept of cooperation that humans did. In their culture, showing mercy to an opponent is seen as either stupidity or a trick." "Then we'll need to speak a language they understand," Susan replied. Paul Harris, the chief engineer from the Mars Defense Station, stepped forward. He had survived the initial Vorax attack by hiding in a maintenance shaft for 3 days. "I've been studying the data from the Horizon sensors," Paul said, bringing up new images on the display. "The Vorax shields have a fluctuation pattern. It's subtle, but I believe we can exploit it." Susan studied the data. How soon can you have a working prototype? 2 weeks, Paul answered. Maybe less. In another part of the command center, Alan Davis, who had been part of the original diplomatic team, argued with a group of military officers. We should still try to communicate, Alan insisted. There must be some faction among them open to reason. Colonel Frank Boyd shook his head. They killed thousands of civilians without warning. They called us prey. Which is why we need to prove them wrong, Alan said. Humans aren't just fighters. We're thinkers, problem solvers. The debate was interrupted by an alert. A Vorax scout ship had been detected near Neptune. Susan made her decision quickly. Launch Operation First Strike. Let's show them what humanity is capable of. 3 days later, the Vorax scout approached Neptune Station expecting easy prey. Instead, they found a small fleet of Earth ships waiting in ambush. The battle was brief but decisive. Using conventional weapons and clever tactics, the human fleet disabled the Vorax vessel. In the aftermath, a team led by Lisa boarded the damaged alien ship. Most of the crew had died in the battle, but one Vorax officer survived. They brought him back to Earth. The captive Vorax, who identified himself as Quetzar, was not treated as expected. Instead of torture or execution, he was given medical care and placed in a comfortable holding cell. Why do you treat me this way? Quetzar asked Lisa during an interview. I am your enemy. Because this is who we are, Lisa replied simply. And because we want you to understand us. Quetzar seemed confused. Understanding prey is unnecessary. That's your first mistake, Lisa said. We are not prey. Meanwhile, Paul worked day and night on his shield technology. Using the Vorax data, he developed a system that could adapt to the enemy weapons, growing stronger with each hit. The first tests were promising. Greg Simmons, a biotech specialist, joined Lisa's team to study Vorax biology. They made a surprising discovery. Their communication is partially biochemical, Greg explained during a briefing. They release pheromones that reinforce their spoken language. That's why they seemed so unified in purpose. Can we disrupt it? Susan asked. Greg nodded. Theoretically, yes. A specific compound could interfere with their ability to receive these signals. It wouldn't harm them physically, but it would create confusion, maybe even panic. Susan authorized immediate development of this non-lethal weapon. She believed in fighting smart, not just hard. Earth's governments, faced with extinction, put aside their differences and formed the Terran Defense Alliance. Resources were pooled, technologies shared, and a fleet of warships built at record speed. On the 92nd day after the first attack, the Vorax returned in force. A fleet of 30 ships entered the solar system, heading directly for Earth. They broadcast a simple message: submit or perish. The human response came from Admiral Miller herself. Neither. The Battle of Mars orbit began as the Vorax fleet encountered the first line of human defense. Earth ships, smaller but more maneuverable, used hit-and-run tactics to frustrate the alien formations. For every human vessel destroyed, 2 more appeared from hiding places in the asteroid belt. Honor. The flagship TDS Defender, Susan watched the battle unfold. Deploy the adaptive shields, she ordered. The effect was immediate. Vorax energy weapons that had previously torn through human defenses now struggled to cause damage. With each hit, Paul's shields analyzed the attack and adapted, growing stronger. They're changing formation, reported the tactical officer. Moving to surround us. Susan smiled thinly. Just as we predicted, launch phase 2. From the moons of Mars, small stealth craft emerged, each carrying containers of Greg's communication disruptor. They positioned themselves around the Vorax fleet and released the compound into space. The effect was dramatic. The once coordinated, Vorax ships began to move erratically. Some fired on their own allies, others retreated without apparent reason. In the holding cell on Earth, Quetzar watched footage of the battle with Alan Davis. Impossible, the Vorax said. How could you advance so quickly? You never really understood us, Alan replied. Humans are at our best when challenged. You thought our compassion was weakness, but it's the source of our greatest strength, our ability to work together. The battle ended with the Vorax fleet retreating, leaving 7 of their ships destroyed or captured. It wasn't a complete victory, but it sent a clear message. Humanity would not be easy prey. In the war room, Susan addressed her commanders. This is just the beginning. They'll be back with a larger force, but now they know we can hurt them. Lisa added, and they're scared. The Vorax never expected resistance. Their entire worldview is being challenged. As the meeting ended, Paul approached with news. I've been studying their FTL drive from the captured ships. I think we can reverse engineer it. Susan nodded approval. Do it. It's time we took this fight to them. That night, Earth broadcast a message to the Vorax homeworld, translated into their language. We offered peace. Remember that when what comes next finds you. The awakening of humanity's wrath had begun. The stars looked different from the bridge of the USS Horizon 2. Captain Olivia Carpenter watched as her ship moved silently through the darkness of space, deep in what was now known as Vorax territory. The ship was named after the vessel lost in first contact, but it was far more advanced. Equipped with Paul Harris's adaptive shield technology and powerful new weapons, it was built for one purpose: to show the Vorax that humans were not to be underestimated. Status report, Olivia said, her voice calm despite the danger. All systems normal, Captain, replied her first officer, Sam Wilson. We're approaching the Vorax supply depot. Still no sign they've detected us. Olivia nodded. Maintain stealth. Protocols. Weapons ready but offline until my command. 3 months had passed since the Battle of Mars orbit. In that time, humanity had made remarkable progress. Paul Harris had not only perfected his shield technology, but had successfully reverse-engineered the Vorax FTL drive. Earth ships could now travel as fast as their enemies, opening up new possibilities for the war effort. The mission today was bold: raid a major Vorax supply depot, gather intelligence, and escape before reinforcements arrived. Admiral Miller had personally selected Olivia for this task, knowing her reputation for quick thinking and calm under pressure. Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Wright continued her work with the captured Vorax commander Quetzar. To her surprise, he had become increasingly cooperative. Your species continues to confuse me, Quetzar said as they sat in what was now more of a comfortable apartment than a cell. You had every reason to kill me, yet you treat me with respect. Lisa pushed a tablet toward him, showing images of the latest Vorax attack on a human outpost. Yet your people continue to attack ours. Quetzar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. A sign Lisa had learned indicated distress. The Supreme Leader, Drothak, believes all other species exist to be dominated or destroyed. It is our way. It doesn't have to be, Lisa said. That's what we're trying to show you. At that moment, Alan Davis entered the room. Once the voice of pure diplomacy, he had adapted too. He now worked with military intelligence, using his understanding of cross-species communication to help develop strategy. We've intercepted some interesting communications, Alan said. The Vorax leadership is dismissing reports of our technological advances. They're calling them statistical anomalies. Quetzar made a sound that Lisa had learned was laughter. Drothak cannot accept that his assessment was wrong. To admit error is to show weakness. That's useful information, Alan noted. Their overconfidence gives us an advantage. In his lab nearby, Greg Simmons had refined his non-lethal weapon that disrupted Vorax communication. Working with a team of biologists and engineers, he had created a device that could be deployed from ships or even handheld units. The beauty of it, Greg explained to Admiral Miller during a demonstration, is that it causes no permanent harm. It simply blocks their ability to receive biochemical signals for about 6 hours. Susan nodded approvingly. And without those signals, they struggle to coordinate complex actions. They can still fight, but not as a unified force. Meanwhile, in deep space, the USS Horizon 2 had reached its target. The Vorax supply depot was a massive structure orbiting a small moon. Dozens of ships were docked there, loading or unloading supplies. Perfect timing, Olivia said. They're in the middle of a shift change. Launch the drones. Small, unmanned craft silently deployed from the Horizon 2, carrying Greg's disruption devices. They positioned themselves at key points around the depot and activated. The effect was immediate. On their monitors, the crew watched as Vorax workers began moving erratically. Some stopped working entirely. Security personnel appeared confused, unable to respond effectively to alarms. Phase 2, Olivia ordered. The Horizon 2 decloaked and moved toward the depot, firing precision shots at weapons emplacements and communication arrays. No ships were targeted. The goal wasn't destruction but disruption. Team Alpha, deploy, Sam ordered. A small group of specialized soldiers launched toward the depot in boarding craft. Their mission: retrieve data cores and any useful technology, then place tracking devices on key supply ships. The operation went smoothly until a large Vorax battleship unexpectedly dropped out of FTL near the depot. It hadn't been affected by the disruptors. All teams accelerate timeline, Olivia commanded. We have company. The battleship immediately opened fire, but the Horizon 2's adaptive shields held. Each hit made them stronger, just as Paul Harris had designed. Evasive maneuvers, Olivia ordered. Keep them busy until our teams return. For the next 20 minutes, the Horizon 2 played a dangerous game of cat and mouse with the much larger Vorax vessel. When the boarding teams finally returned with their valuable cargo, Olivia ordered a tactical retreat. They're pursuing, Sam reported. Olivia smiled. Just as we planned. Navigator, set course for the gas giant. The Horizon 2 raced toward a nearby gas giant planet, the Vorax battleship in close pursuit. As they neared the planet's turbulent atmosphere, Olivia gave her next order. Release countermeasures and execute FTL jump on my mark. The ship discharged a cloud of particles that momentarily blinded the Vorax sensors. In that brief window, the Horizon 2 changed course and jumped to FTL, leaving the Vorax ship searching empty space. The mission was a complete success. The data retrieved from the depot provided vital intelligence on Vorax fleet movements and supply lines. The tracking devices would allow Earth forces to intercept critical shipments. When Olivia reported back to Admiral Miller, she added, "We also confirmed something important. The new FTL drive works perfectly in combat situations." Susan was pleased. "Excellent work, Captain. This is exactly the kind of intelligent warfare we need." On the Vorax homeworld, Supreme Leader Drothak received the news of the raid with rage. How could primitive humans breach our territory? It's impossible. His subordinate, afraid to speak but more afraid to remain silent, replied, "The humans are advancing rapidly, Great Leader. Some commanders suggest we may have miscalculated their capabilities." Drothak struck the subordinate. "Nonsense. They are prey species. Their early successes are luck, nothing more." But doubt had begun to spread among the Vorax military. Junior commanders whispered among themselves about the humans' unexpected strengths. Reports from the front lines spoke of human ships that grew stronger when attacked, of weapons that caused no physical harm yet shattered unit cohesion. Back on Earth, Lisa shared these developments with Ketzar. His reaction surprised her. "Yuri, people could destroy us," he said quietly. "Yet you continue to use restraint. Why?" "Because extermination was never our goal," Lisa replied. "We want peace, but on terms that ensure our safety." For the first time, Ketzar seemed to truly understand. Perhaps there is wisdom in this. Mercy. That evening, Earth sent another message to the Vorax homeworld. "We offered peace. Remember that it's still possible to end this without further bloodshed." The transmission included technical specifications for a communications channel that would allow direct talks between leaders. It was a turning point in the conflict. Humanity had shown not just its capacity for wrath, but its continued willingness to choose a better path, even after being wronged. And for the first time, some among the Vorax began to wonder if there was strength in this approach they had never considered before. Admiral Susan Miller stood on the bridge of the TDS Resolute, the largest human warship ever built. Around her, a fleet of 30 vessels prepared to jump to FTL. This was no longer a defensive operation. For the first time, humanity was taking The fight directly to Vorax space. "All ships report ready, Admiral," said her communications officer. Susan took a deep breath. "Then it's time. Begin Operation Longbow." As one, the fleet engaged their FTL drives, the technology that Paul Harris had reverse-engineered from captured Vorax ships. The stars stretched into lines and then they were gone, racing toward the heart of enemy territory. Back on Earth, Lisa Wright and Greg Simmons worked with a team of scientists to monitor the effectiveness of their non-lethal communication disruptor. The small devices had been upgraded to affect much larger areas and could now be deployed by the thousands. "If this works as planned," Greg explained to the command staff, "we can disable their ability to coordinate without killing a single Vorax." Lisa nodded. The psychological impact could be decisive. Their entire society is built on strict hierarchy and perfect obedience. In a secure room nearby, Alan Davis continued his work with Quetzar. The Vorax commander had gone from prisoner to valuable advisor, providing insights into his species' tactics and psychology. "Drothak will never surrender," Quetzar said, pointing to a map of Vorax space. "But if you can demonstrate your power here, at the Tau Ceti outpost, many sub-commanders might reconsider their loyalties." Alan studied the map. "How many civilians in that system?" "None," Quetzar replied. "It is purely a military installation." Alan smiled slightly. "You've started to think like us, haven't you? Considering civilian casualties." Quetzar's 4 eyes blinked in sequence. "Perhaps I have been influenced by your ways." The human fleet emerged from FTL at the edge of the Tau Ceti system. As Quetzar had informed them, a significant Vorax military force was stationed there. 15 warships. And a massive space station. Susan wasted no time. Deploy disruptors, then move to attack Formation Delta. Thousands of small devices spread throughout the system, activating simultaneously. On their monitors, the human fleet watched as the Vorax ships began to move erratically, some firing at nothing, others drifting out of formation. "They're completely disorganized," Susan observed. "Now target their weapons and engines only. I want those ships disabled, not destroyed." The battle that followed was unlike anything in human history. The Vorax, renowned for their coordinated attacks and ruthless efficiency, found themselves unable to work together. Their superior numbers meant little when they couldn't execute complex tactics. In contrast, the human fleet moved with perfect precision. Ships protected each other, concentrated fire on key targets, and adapted quickly to changing situations. Within 2 hours, 12 Vorax warships had been disabled, their weapons and engines destroyed but crews left alive. On the Vorax command ship, Supreme Commander Drothak raged at his subordinates. "How is this possible? They are prey species. They should be running in fear." A junior officer dared to speak. "Great leader, the humans are not what we thought. They have turned our own technology against us and developed new weapons we cannot counter." "Nonsense," Drothak snarled. "They are simply lucky. Prepare the main cannon." The Vorax command ship carried a weapon of terrible power, a gravity cannon that could tear a planet apart. It had never been used in combat before, as most species surrendered once they saw the Vorax fleet. Now Drothak ordered it activated. Susan received the warning from her sensors officer. "Admiral, the Vorax flagship is powering up something massive. Energy readings are off the charts." "Paul warned us about this," Susan replied calmly. "Execute Plan Omega." 3 human ships broke formation and moved to surround the Vorax flagship. As the gravity cannon prepared to fire, they activated a special version of their adaptive shields, one designed to absorb and redirect energy. The cannon fired, a beam of concentrated gravity that should have torn through any defense. Instead, the human ships caught the beam in a triangle of shields, containing and channeling its power. The strain was enormous, and one ship's shields failed completely, leaving it dead in space. But the other 2 held, and the deadly energy was redirected harmlessly into space. Before Drothak could order a second shot, a small stealth craft approached his ship. Captain Olivia Carpenter led a team of elite soldiers, using the chaos of battle as cover to board the Vorax flagship. They moved quickly through the corridors, facing little resistance thanks to the communication disruptors. Their target, the bridge. Olivia had studied Vorax ship layouts with Quetzar's help. She knew exactly where to go and how to bypass security systems. Within 20 minutes, her team reached the bridge and breached the doors. Drothak turned in shock as humans entered his command center. "Impossible," he roared. Olivia stepped forward. "Supreme Leader Drothak, your fleet is defeated. Your weapon has failed. Surrender now." "Vorax, do not surrender," he snarled, reaching for a weapon. Olivia was faster. A non-lethal stun round hit Drothak in the chest, sending him crashing to the floor, unconscious but alive. "Secure the bridge," she ordered her team, "and send the message." Throughout the Vorax fleet, a transmission played on every communication channel. It showed Drothak unconscious, the humans in control of his ship, and a simple message. "The Supreme Leader has fallen. The humans offer terms." Back on Earth, Dr. Lisa Wright had made a breakthrough in understanding Vorax biology. "They evolved as apex predators," she explained to Admiral Miller via video link. "Their brains are wired to either dominate or destroy. Compromise is literally foreign to their way of thinking." "Then how do we end this war?" Susan asked. "Quetzar has shown us it's possible for them to change, but it may take generations for their society as a whole to evolve beyond these instincts." After the battle at Tau Ceti, something unprecedented happened. Quetzar asked to send a message to his fellow commanders. To everyone's surprise, 5 Vorax ship captains responded, expressing interest in what the humans were proposing. "They're curious," Alan explained to Susan. "Quetzar has told them about our ways, about how cooperation can be stronger than domination." Susan considered this. "So we have a faction willing to talk. That's a start." The final act of the Tau Ceti battle became legendary throughout both human and Vorax space. A Vorax colony ship, filled with the families of military officers, had been caught in the crossfire. Its engines damaged, it was drifting toward the system's sun with no hope of escape. Admiral Miller ordered a rescue mission. 3 human ships broke off from the main fleet and towed the colony ship to safety, even as some Vorax warships continued to fight. When asked why she would risk human lives to save Vorax civilians, Susan's answer was broadcast across all channels. "Because this is who we are. We offered peace. We still do." For many Vorax, seeing humans risk their lives to save Vorax children was the moment they began to question everything they had been taught about humanity. It wasn't weakness that drove humans to show mercy. It was a different kind of strength, one their society had never understood before. The Vorax homeworld, Zexral Prime, buzzed with frantic activity. News of their fleet's defeat at Tau Ceti had spread quickly. For the first time in their history, the Vorax prepared to defend their own world against invasion. Weapons platforms were hastily deployed in orbit. Citizens were armed and trained for ground combat. Children and essential personnel were moved to underground bunkers. In the central government complex, those loyal to Supreme Leader Drothak gathered. With their leader captured by humans, they had appointed his second-in-command, Vrentak, to lead them. "The humans will show no mercy," Vrentak told the assembled commanders. "They will do to us what we would have done to them. Prepare for extinction." But extinction was not what Admiral Susan Miller had in mind. The human fleet, now expanded to 60 ships following their victory at Tau Ceti, approached Vorax space with a different purpose. On the bridge of the TDS Resolute, Susan reviewed her orders one final time. "Our goal is containment, not destruction. We demonstrate our power, then offer terms." Beside her stood Quetzar, no longer a prisoner but an advisor. In the months since his capture, he had come to understand humans in ways no other Vorax did. Now he would help translate that understanding to his people. "They expect you to kill them all," Quetzar said. "They believe it is what they would do in your position." Susan nodded. "Then they're about to learn an important lesson about humanity." The human fleet dropped out of FTL at the edge of the Vorax home system. Immediately, automated defense platforms opened fire. The humans made no move to return fire. Instead, They activated their adaptive shields and simply absorbed the attacks. After 10 minutes of constant bombardment with no effect, the defense platforms fell silent. Susan sent her message. People of Zexral Prime, I am Admiral Susan Miller of the Terran Defense Alliance. Your leader Drothak is in our custody. Your fleet at Tau Ceti has been defeated. We now control the approaches to your homeworld. She paused, letting the gravity of the situation sink in. Then she continued. We could destroy your civilization today. Instead, we offer terms for peace. On the Vorax world, confusion reigned. Their entire history told them that victors eliminated the defeated. The concept of negotiated peace was foreign to them. In the government complex, Vrentok scoffed. A trick. They want us to lower our defenses. But others were not so sure. A commander named Prelvik, who had lost a ship at Tau Ceti, but whose crew had been spared by the humans, spoke up. What if it is not a trick? What if they truly think differently than we do? Before Vrentok could respond, news arrived that shocked them all. Drothak, who had been captured at Tau Ceti, had committed ritual suicide rather than accept defeat. According to Vorax tradition, this act released his followers from their obligation to follow his policies. The human fleet remained in position, waiting. On Earth, Lisa Wright and Alan Davis worked with other experts to draft terms that both sides could accept. They knew that for peace to last, the Vorax needed to save face while humanity needed security. After 3 tense days, a response finally came from the Vorax homeworld. Prelvik had taken control, with the support of several key military commanders. Many had heard about Kedzar's reports on human behavior and the rescue of the colony ship. They were willing to listen. A meeting was arranged on a neutral space station at the edge of the system. Susan led the human delegation, with Kedzar at her side. Prelvik represented the Vorax. Your terms, Prelvik demanded without preamble. When they met, Susan laid out the human position. First, the Vorax will withdraw from all human territories and establish a neutral zone between our peoples. Second, you will cease all unprovoked aggression against other species. Third, you will participate in regular diplomatic exchanges to prevent future misunderstandings. Prelvik's 4 eyes blinked rapidly. And in return? In return, we help you rebuild what was damaged in the war. We share appropriate technologies for peaceful development. We establish trade relations beneficial to both our peoples. The Vorax commander seemed genuinely confused. You do not demand our surrender, our resources, our service? No, Susan replied simply. We want peace, not servants or slaves. Kedzar spoke then, addressing his fellow Vorax. I have lived among the humans, I have studied them. Their strength is not in conquest but in cooperation. They offer us a new way to exist in this galaxy. The negotiations lasted for weeks, but finally, an agreement was reached. 3 Vorax systems, led by Prelvik and other commanders influenced by Kedzar, signed the peace treaty. Other regions of Vorax space remained hostile, but they were contained and increasingly isolated. 6 months later, Dr. Lisa Wright arrived on the Vorax homeworld to establish the first cultural exchange program. She was greeted by Prelvik himself. Many still do not understand your ways, he told her as they walked through the capital city. They fear that your mercy is merely delayed vengeance. Lisa smiled. Time will prove otherwise. On the site where the first human delegation had been betrayed years earlier, a monument was built. On it were inscribed words in both human and Vorax languages. We offered mercy. They taught us wrath. We choose both. Captain Olivia Carpenter, now in charge of security for the first permanent human embassy on Zexral Prime, often visited this monument. Today she found a young Vorax standing before it, studying the words. What does it mean? The young Vorax asked when he noticed Olivia. To choose both mercy and wrath? Olivia considered the question carefully. It means understanding, when each is needed, the strength to fight when necessary, and the wisdom to show compassion when possible. Is that why you didn't destroy us when you could have? The young Vorax pressed. Yes, Olivia replied. Destruction is easy, creation is harder, but ultimately, more powerful. Back on Earth, Paul Harris's technologies developed during the war had revolutionized human society. Adaptive shields now protected cities from natural disasters. The energy channeling systems powered a new generation of clean power plants. FTL drives opened up the galaxy for exploration. In a quiet moment between meetings, Admiral Susan Miller met with Quetzar, who now served as the official Vorax ambassador to Earth. Did you ever wonder why we didn't just exterminate your people after what they did? Susan asked him. Quetzar was silent for a moment before answering. At first, I thought it was weakness. Then I believed it was strategy. Now I understand it is something else entirely. What? Susan asked. The luxury of the truly powerful, Quetzar replied. Only those who are genuinely strong can afford to show mercy. As night fell on Earth, the stars above were no longer just distant lights. They were destinations, possibilities, futures. Humanity had faced its greatest challenge and emerged not just victorious, but wiser. They had shown the galaxy that true strength lay not in domination, but in the balance of power and compassion. The Vorax had laughed at humanity's mercy. Now they respected both its mercy and its wrath, understanding at last that the two were not opposites but aspects of the same remarkable species that reached for the stars not to conquer, but to connect.